In the world of the bold and the beautiful, danger rarely announces itself with chaos. It prefers calm. It waits for relief to settle into complacency, for the city to exhale and convince itself that the nightmare has ended. Los Angeles does exactly that when the news spreads that Luna is dead. The tension loosens its grip, security routines soften, and the unspoken belief takes hold that the threat has been neutralized. It is precisely this belief that opens the door. Not violently, not obviously, but with the quiet efficiency of someone who understands that the most effective attacks happen when vigilance fades. For Katie Logan Spencer, that sense of relief arrives at the worst possible time. She stays late at the boutique to finalize paperwork for the grand opening, alone not by accident, but by choice. The space feels safe, polished, and newly claimed, filled with the subtle hum of ambition finally taking physical form. Katie believes she is closing one chapter and opening another, unaware that someone else has studied her schedule with the patience of a predator. The timing is not coincidental. It is precise to the minute, as if the attacker has rehearsed this moment repeatedly, mapping out every variable until chance itself has been eliminated. The power goes out suddenly, not with the randomness of a neighborhood blackout, but with surgical intent. Lights die. Alarms fall silent. The city's noise retreats into a hollow quiet that presses in on the room. Somewhere nearby, a masked figure has cut electricity at the source, using professional tools that leave no room for doubt about preparation. This is not desperation. This is design. The darkness is not meant merely to conceal. It is meant to disorient, to strip Katie of the control she has fought so hard to reclaim. When Bill Spencer arrives, summoned by instinct more than information, he understands immediately that something is wrong. The security monitors are dead, screens black as if erased. The smell hits him next, the sharp, metallic burn of a breaker box forced open with expert precision. Bill has lived long enough on the edge of power to recognize sabotage when he sees it. This is not a crime of opportunity. It is a message delivered in the language of dominance and humiliation. On the floor lies the most disturbing detail of all, a small object, carefully placed, unmistakably symbolic. It is connected to Will Spencer, intimate enough to feel like a violation rather than evidence. The placement feels ritualistic, deliberate, as though the attacker wanted the discovery to unfold in a specific order. This is not just murder. It is punishment. Punishment aimed at Katie through her son, and at Bill through the one bond he has never been able to fully armor. The realization hits Bill with brutal clarity. Whoever did this is not interested in escape alone. They want recognition. They want Bill to understand that this is the final insult, the last act in a long campaign of psychological warfare. The city thought Luna's death meant closure, but closure was never the goal. Control was. And control is most absolute when the victim is convinced they are safe. The twist reveals itself with chilling elegance. Exterior cameras, untouched by the internal power cut, capture a figure leaving the scene. The posture, the gait, the silhouette, everything about it screams Luna. The resemblance is so precise it borders on theatrical. Yet something is missing. The footage lacks the decisive detail that would confirm identity. No clear face. No defining marker. Just enough resemblance to ignite Bill's fury and doubt, and just enough ambiguity to deny him certainty. It is performance masquerading as evidence, staged not for investigators, but for Bill himself. As Bill studies the footage, he feels the ground shift beneath him. Someone has anticipated his reactions, understood his instincts, and crafted this moment specifically to manipulate them. The implication is terrifying. If the attacker can imitate Luna so convincingly, then Luna's death may have been only the beginning, not the end. The city's relief now feels like complicity in its own deception. Katie's trauma unfolds more quietly, but no less devastatingly. She replays the moments before the blackout, searching for signs she missed. The confidence she felt staying alone curdles into self-reproach. She realizes that her pursuit of independence has made her visible in ways she did not anticipate. This was not an attack on her business alone, it was an assault on her identity as a mother. The object left behind ties her success directly to her greatest vulnerability, turning achievement into liability. For Will, the impact is deeply psychological. He understands that the message was not meant for him to see first, but for him to feel eventually. The object is a reminder that his existence is leverage, that his safety can be used to hurt others. The knowledge burrows into his sense of self, replacing innocence with suspicion. He begins to question whether love, in this family, inevitably invites danger. The city reacts with confusion, then fear. If Luna is truly dead, then who walks like her? If she is alive, then who decided to let the world believe otherwise? The staged footage becomes a Rorschach test, revealing more about the observer than the truth itself. Some see proof. Others see manipulation. Will sees a challenge. The brilliance of the attack lies in its restraint. No frantic chase. No public spectacle. Just darkness, precision, and symbolism. It transforms the crime scene into a psychological arena where every interpretation deepens the attacker's control. Bill recognizes this strategy because he has used similar tactics himself. That recognition does not empower him, it destabilizes him. For the first time, he is reacting instead of orchestrating. As investigators circle the scene, Bill keeps his focus inward, dissecting motives rather than evidence. The attacker wanted Katie isolated. They wanted Bill to arrive too late. They wanted the object to be found, not hidden. And most of all, they wanted the image of Luna to linger like a ghost that refuses to stay buried. This was not about evading justice. It was about rewriting narrative, forcing Bill to question every assumption he has made since Luna's supposed death. Katie's resolve begins to harden in the aftermath. Fear does not erase her ambition, it reframes it. She understands now that retreat would validate the attacker's power. Yet every step forward carries the weight of risk. Her love for Will collides with her refusal to surrender the life she has built. The conflict is unbearable because it offers no morally clean choice. Bill, meanwhile, becomes obsessed with the missing detail in the footage. The absence feels intentional, like a blank space in a painting meant to draw the eye. He realizes the attacker is counting on his need for certainty, using it as a weapon. By denying him closure, they keep him emotionally engaged, reactive, and exposed. The performance of Luna is not meant to prove her survival, it is meant to haunt him. The city's earlier relief now reads as tragic irony. Believing Luna was dead allowed security to lapse, schedules to be predictable, and defenses to lower. The attacker exploited that collective sigh of relief with ruthless intelligence. This was not the act of someone seeking vengeance alone. It was the move of someone playing a longer game, one that uses fear as currency and perception as leverage. As night deepens, Bill stands alone in the darkened boutique, surrounded by the remnants of ambition and violation. He understands that this is not over. The attacker has declared intent, not finality. The message is clear, this was never about killing in the shadows. It was about punishing in the light, forcing Bill and Katie to live with the knowledge that they were seen, studied, and judged. In the end, the most devastating truth emerges not from the evidence, but from its orchestration. Someone wants Bill to believe Luna is both dead and alive, both defeated and omnipresent. They want him trapped between certainty and doubt, unable to move without triggering consequences. The city may still cling to the idea that the danger has passed, but Bill knows better now. The blackout was not an end. It was an overture. And somewhere beyond the reach of cameras and assumptions, the figure who walked like Luna fades back into anonymity, satisfied not because a life was taken, but because a boundary was crossed. The punishment was delivered. The insult was complete. And the final humiliation lies in the realization that the truth, whatever it is, has been carefully staged, performed just for Bill, leaving him to confront the most unbearable question of all, not whether Luna is alive, but whether he has been watching the wrong ending to the story all along. In The Bold and the Beautiful, there are moments when grief does not soften a man, but sharpens him, filing away restraint until only purpose remains. After the death of Katie Logan Spencer, that purpose consumes Bill Spencer so completely that the distinction between protection and predation collapses. The city watches him change without quite understanding when it happens. At first, he is the widower everyone expects, the silent titan, shoulders squared against the wind of sympathy, eyes fixed on a horizon no one else can see. Then, gradually, he becomes something else. Not a guardian. A hunter. Bill's transformation does not begin with violence. It begins with certainty, the belief that grief has granted him clarity, that love has conferred permission. He tells himself that the law moves too slowly, that truth hides behind fear and money, and that only someone willing to use power without apology can flush it out. In the vacuum left by Katie's death, Bill steps into a role he has always known how to play, but never fully embraced, the man who decides what justice looks like when systems fail. He uses influence like a lever, pressing it into the weak joints of institutions and people alike. Doors open. Records surface. Witnesses remember details they were sure they had forgotten. Every favor has a price, and Bill pays without flinching. At night, when the city quiets, Bill replays the final hours before Katie died. He obsesses over timing, over the choreography of darkness that swallowed her last moments. He convinces himself that the killer is not just elusive but arrogant, someone who believes the city's fear is proof of victory. That belief becomes fuel. Bill begins to mirror the methods he despises, studying the crime as if it were a blueprint rather than a wound. He learns how power outages ripple through a building, how security systems fail when their redundancy is misunderstood, how silence itself can be engineered. He is not planning revenge, he tells himself. He is planning revelation. The rumors that Luna is still out there, alive, dead, or deliberately blurred, gnaw at him. The name becomes shorthand for everything that took Katie away: manipulation, theater, the cruelty of appearances. Bill refuses to let the ambiguity stand. He decides that if the killer wants darkness, he will provide it. If the killer thrives on control, he will set the stage. The plan forms not as a burst of inspiration, but as a meticulous reenactment, an act of devotion warped by grief. He chooses a building with the same vulnerabilities as the night Katie died. He ensures the schedule is predictable. He arranges for the power to go out completely, plunging floors into engineered night. And he waits. What Bill does not anticipate is how easy it becomes to justify the means. Witnesses are cornered, their fear reframed as cooperation. Information is purchased, its provenance unexamined so long as it points in the right direction. Each compromise feels temporary, necessary. Each line crossed feels like a small concession to a larger good. Bill tells himself that Katie would understand, that she would want him to do whatever it takes. The thought steadies him, even as it corrodes something essential inside. When the blackout hits, the city seems to hold its breath. Elevators stall. Emergency lights flicker. Security feeds go dark by design. Bill positions himself in the shadowed heart of the building, listening for movement that does not belong. His pulse steadies into something cold and precise. This is not rage. This is focus. He imagines the killer stepping into the trap, drawn by the familiar architecture of fear, confident in the invisibility darkness provides. He imagines confronting that silhouette, and finally collapsing uncertainty into fact. Instead, the trap snaps shut on someone else. The figure caught is wrong in ways Bill recognizes only too late. The gait is not performative, it is anxious. The pause at the threshold is hesitation, not calculation. When the lights surge back on and security converges, Bill sees the truth with devastating clarity. This is not the architect of Katie's death. This is a frightened person who followed a breadcrumb trail of rumor and suggestion, someone pushed into proximity by the same manipulations Bill believed he was wielding. An innocent. The realization lands not as shock, but as vertigo. Bill feels the ground tilt, the moral geometry of the night rearranging itself in a way he cannot correct. The power he used so confidently now recoils, revealing its cost. He understands, in a single sickening instant, that the killer has already won. Not by evading him. By transforming him. The true cruelty of the plan becomes obvious in retrospect. The killer did not need to eliminate Bill. All they needed was to provoke him into becoming the thing Katie Logan Spencer would have feared. The man who corners rather than protects. The man who engineers darkness rather than dispels it. The man who mistakes control for justice. The trap was never meant to catch the killer. It was meant to catch Bill in the act of crossing a line he could never uncross. In the aftermath, the city buzzes with confusion. Some hail Bill's resolve, mistaking intensity for righteousness. Others recoil, sensing the danger of a man who believes grief licenses anything. Bill hears none of it clearly. He is too busy replaying Katie's voice in his memory, not as justification, but as indictment. He imagines her seeing the blackout, the fear, the innocent caught in the crosshairs, and he knows with a certainty that cuts deeper than any accusation, that this is not what she would have wanted. The worst punishment is not legal exposure or public condemnation. It is recognition. Bill recognizes himself as the final piece of the killer's design. By turning his own methods against him, by staging a night that mirrored Katie's death, the killer forced Bill to reenact the very violence he sought to avenge. The performance was complete the moment Bill chose darkness as his ally. As dawn breaks, Bill stands amid the detritus of his plan, reports half-written, devices powered back on, faces etched with fear rather than relief. He understands that hunting has a way of hollowing the hunter, of convincing him that speed and certainty matter more than care. He understands that grief, when armed with power, can become indistinguishable from malice. The line he crossed is not marked by blood, but by intention, and stepping back across it will require something he has not yet learned how to give, restraint without reward. The killer remains at large, but their victory is already inscribed in Bill's conscience. They have not taken his life. They have taken his innocence. They have ensured that any justice Bill seeks from this point forward must pass through the gauntlet of his own reflection. And that, Bill realizes, is the most enduring punishment of all. In the end, the bold and the beautiful frames this arc not as a tale of vengeance, but as a cautionary anatomy of power and grief. It asks whether love can survive the methods we adopt in its name, whether justice remains justice when it mirrors the crime it pursues. Bill Spencer's hunt does not end with a capture. It ends with a mirror held steady, forcing him to confront the man he has become and to decide, at last, whether he will keep chasing shadows or step back into the light Katie believed he could still choose.